All right, we should be good to go. We should be back in here. Let me double check and make sure we're good. Y'all know what to do. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can see me on this Monday morning. Hopefully y'all are doing well. Hopefully everybody's good. I see we got a bunch of y'all in here ready to go. It's gonna be a good time, and I must welcome you all. Welcome you to another YouTube live stream and another episode of the ClassE Morning Show. I'm your host, ClassE at patreon.com/ClassEbeats. By the way, the link is in the description as well as in the pinned comment in the chat. We're gonna get into it today. Y'all know we got some more smoke for Commissioner Michael Cox. It's not just AJ. We are on this man and not gonna let down until we get some answers. So we're gonna talk about another lawsuit he's looking at facing that may expose him for lying again. We're gonna talk about Elisa Andrews. We're gonna talk about Devyn Michaels being found guilty. Yep, she's cooked. She's up out of there, is going to be serving a lot of time in jail. And then we may have some new trials we're gonna be talking about here, including but not limited to Brian Walsh. So I know y'all are ready for it, but before I get into the show, we gotta say what's up to the people, man. Shout out to everybody who's in here. Of course, my awesome, amazing Amy is in here to start the day off the right way. Thank you, Amy. Thank you for being amazing. Thank you for everything that you do. Always, man. Y'all make sure y'all go support Amy and check out her channel as well. Les Cleaver's in here. Aphis Valencia. We've got Kelly Berg is in the building. Taco Tuesday is in here a day early. We got the big dog Jay Money in the building, always showing up and showing some love. Good to see you in here, man. Jay Buckmaster's back at it as well. And I'll be saying what's up to y'all. Good morning, good afternoon as we go throughout the show. I don't ask for much of you on this show, but y'all know the one thing that I do ask is that you like the video on your way in. Likes are free, helps the channel continue to grow. It lets the YouTube algorithm know that you guys are enjoying the show. It shares the video, the channel, this live stream with more people. So if y'all could take a second, like the video. There's already 8,000 of you that have liked the video so far, so I appreciate y'all liking the video so much. Thank you to everyone who's done that. And if you're feeling extra generous, you can share the video as well. It's super easy to do. You just click the share button and it's got an arrow that's curved pointing to the right. It lets you share the video to Instagram, Facebook, X, anywhere that you share. You can even share it via text to your group chat. So make sure y'all do that if you're feeling super generous. And then I will be reading super chats as we go throughout the show as well. So let me go ahead and get into those real quick. Shout out to my guy, Les Cleaver in here with the 5 bomb. He says, may you all have a great week and are blessed in all you do. Be safe and be loved always. Amen. Thank you, Les Cleaver. Appreciate you. I know you're going to be out there working hard. One of the hardest guys I know in this community. He's going absolutely crazy. So shout out to Les Cleaver. Thank you for the hard work you put in there. And thank you for always supporting too. He always comes by and supports, and it means a lot. Thank you, man. We got Kelly Berg in here with the 5 bomb. Says, happy 5-month membership to me. Absolutely love the content. Best channel and host ever. Shout out to Kelly Berg for the 5 bomb. Thank you for showing up and supporting as well. Thank you for being here for 5 months. That's crazy. Make sure y'all drop your membership milestones in there. If you're a member and you don't know how to find your membership milestone, make sure that you just click the super chat button, and it's free to send. So it lets us know when you're celebrating your milestone or your anniversary here on the channel. Just click the super chat button, and then all the way at the bottom, you should see something that will allow you to share your membership milestone. So make sure y'all are doing that each month as we go throughout the show, so I can shout y'all out and thank you for being a consistent supporter over here. We've got Mr. Brown in the building, just dropping the 5 bomb and showing love. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Hopefully you're doing well. I know you've been back from Florida a couple weeks, so hopefully you're over there relaxing, not picking up speed too much, because you still got some recovery to do. So we're always praying for you, Mr. Brown. I appreciate you being here as well. Yeah, man. Shout out to y'all for being in the building. Okay, I think I got through most of the super chats, and I'll be checking as we go throughout our topics today. So again, if y'all haven't yet, please make sure you like the video on your way in. I know some of y'all are going to be joining us a little bit later or being in and out of the show. So please make sure that you like the video, because it's free, and I'm going to continue to beg you guys to do that. So might as well go ahead and do it anyway. So let's get into our first topic today. This is going to be a fun one. As many of you know, we have been hearing a lot from Elisa Andrews and her defense team specifically now that the trial is over. They've given us some insight into what they were thinking during the trial, some of some of the roadblocks that they ran into, and even talking about some of their strategies when it came to using YouTube comments to adjust how they were moving in court. Yes, you heard that right. And I would love to hear y'all's thoughts on that. So either way, we're going to get back into the video here. And this was posted and this interview was done by Taylor Umbridge. I'll leave a link to the full video down below in the description of this video and in the comments, so y'all can go check it out and support the full video here. But I want to point out another instance in this interview I thought was interesting, and I'll give my thoughts on it and I'll hear your reaction as well. Check this out.
I think everybody has been in some, proximity of a gang or just outside and in the streets, and the fact that her proximity to folks put her on trial, it hurt me in a sense, and it hurt me that our people couldn't look at it and even look at it in a non-biased way to attempt to follow the evidence. It was immediately, oh, when I was 17, I wouldn't have gotten in the car with anybody. I would have asked questions. I would have done this. I would have done that. So for me, that was the thing that really ticked me off.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. So
I agree with you. And I think all of us are, I don't even want to say a bad decision, right? But all of us are one decision away from ending up in, the worst position of our lives. And it may not be a bad decision. It may be a questionable decision. It may be a decision that you didn't even realize what the consequences could be.
That's fair.
But we are all one decision away from the circumstances of our lives being completely different, right? But I want to challenge you a little bit, Taylor, because somehow, right? I watched the YSL trial every day of it. And somehow, some of the same people that criticized Alicia must have been guilty. She had to have known because she was there. Some of those same people were able to pick apart the evidence in the YSL trial and say, hey, maybe some of them have committed some of these crimes, but I don't think the state can prove it. But that wasn't the way the conversations were going about this trial. And
well, they were probably watching the wrong channel. So y'all need to come over to the #1 objective channel on YouTube. You got to come over to the ClassE YouTube channel, because over here, since day one, we believed Alicia Andrews was innocent until proven guilty. We went through the trial, we saw the evidence, and we believed, the jury believed, that there was a substantial amount of evidence that showed and pointed to Alicia Andrews' involvement. From her history of talking about Fulio, to her relationship with Isaiah, to her involvement with what was going behind the scenes, her being there, her allowing him to use their cell phone, being a known gang member. That alone, again, you have to be held accountable for it, because you got to be careful with how. In this case, I think maybe they're looking at the wrong channels, because we watched the evidence play out throughout this trial, and I think we came to the same conclusion here as the jury did, and that she was guilty. It is what it is.
And I'm going to venture out and say that there's a lot of anti-Blackness at the root of that. And who the lawyers were and who the judge was mattered. And I think that's why the conversations went the way they did about Alicia.
No, I disagree with that. YSL was completely and totally different than Alicia Andrews. If this had been a RICO case, maybe this would have been different. We weren't saying Young Thug was completely innocent of everything he ever did ever. We knew, and we talked about on this channel, they were going to get him for the drugs. They were going to get him for the guns. That was a no-brainer. But the entire RICO conspiracy and the way that it was prosecuted, it does factor in here. And I think that was the big difference between the YSL and between Alicia Andrews. It's not that we were saying, okay, there's no evidence to show that Young Thug was messing with drugs, he was messing with guns, and he was around some of the wrong people, right? We knew that. But to show that Young Thug was involved in Donovan Thomas's killing, there was literally nothing there that showed Young Thug was involved in the murder of Donovan Thomas at all. I mean, he wasn't planning anything. He wasn't trying to do a meetup. There weren't phone calls that were taking place. A lot of the evidence didn't add up, and it didn't point to Young Thug being the orchestrator of this shooting. And then you even look at some of the people who were around Young Thug. It seemed like they had more of an issue with Donovan Thomas than Young Thug did. Young Thug, it just doesn't add up. Alicia Andrews, in this instance, you had 1, 2, 3 people that she was directly connected to, and she was a part of, and she was there when it went down. There's just too much. There's too much there.
because I've seen firsthand some of the same people that were watching this YSL trial and very, very understanding, and the judge is wrong and the lawyers are right, somehow now think that just because a judge says something, that means the judge is right and the lawyers are wrong. And I find that very interesting because the racial dynamics are very different now. So I would challenge some of those people to look deep inside and figure out why that is. But more importantly, I would challenge anybody to argue why they think Alicia could have committed this crime or, known anything, and they can't say because she was there. Like that can't be a part of your argument.
Yeah,
and I don't think anybody.
Okay, well, let's take helping book an Airbnb. She participated in planning the trips. She was in communication with Isaiah. She was letting Isaiah use her phone to conduct business. There was we know, and Alicia Andrews admitted that she was with a known gang member. She knew what he was involved in. She knew what he was participating in. And she allowed and encouraged and participated in that type of behavior. It's not really that complicated, to be honest. I don't know. What are we missing?
It says it. Like, that's literally one of the rules. Mere presence is not enough. Like, that is the rule. So you have to prove it.
What about the cell phone?
Sorry, that's just lawsuit coming out of me. I learned a little.
But yeah. And I don't think you can. If you're not allowed to say because she was there, because that's at the end of every thought. She must have known because she was there. And if you can't argue because she was there, there is literally no evidence that she knew, and that's because she didn't.
Yeah, and again, I don't even think that it's a big deal that she was there. I honestly wouldn't care that she was there. I didn't even factor in the fact that she was there as much into my decision. It was everything surrounding that and leading up to that. Nobody's saying Alicia Andrews pulled the trigger, but then she dang sure knew there was a trigger going to be pulled. I think the evidence showed that.
And that's just what it is. So, yeah.
Interesting.
All right, so let's go back into the courtroom, right? Because there were a lot of challenges that you guys faced when it came to just sidebars or just trying to question your witnesses. How did you manage just like the emotional, because you guys believe in our innocence, right? So I know it had to be emotional in that moment when you're wanting to get this question out or you're wanting to bring this evidence in. How do you manage that, like on the fly in front of the cameras?
Jeremy does a much better job at it than me.
You want to take it or you want me to take it?
I'll take it. I'm not going to say I don't manage it well. I believe that I remain professional, right? But I am a passionate advocate. And I don't believe in not speaking up when something is wrong. I don't like disrespect or anything that is at a negative towards me to go unchecked. But there's a balance there, right? Because the way that I speak outside of the presence of the jury is very different than in front of the jury, right? Because again, and not all lawyers have this burden, but we have the burden of being Black attorneys, and I have the burden of being a Black woman attorney. And so I have to manage the way that I interact in the courtroom in front of the jury. Outside of the jury still, but it's very different. It's very frustrating, right? To know that your position is the correct one, to have case law to back it up, to have the Constitution to back it up, to have common sense back it up, and still yet somehow the people on the opposite side of you disagree, and the person who has the control over what is put in front of the jury disagrees. It's very frustrating. And I think even the best lawyers, sometimes it may show on your face, but all you can do is move forward. That's all. That's the only choice you have, because as frustrating as it is, Alicia's life is still in our hands, so we have to move forward and adjust and hope that if this is something that's in front of the jury, that they question it as well. Because don't think the jurors don't see, like, why can't we hear the answer to that question? They don't see some of the arguments that are made from the state, from the defense, and even the judge. The jurors see that too, and if they're interested.
Yeah, I want to know what y'all think about this, because again, we always cover these trials as if we would be on the jury and as prospective jurors, and some of us, including myself, have been jurors in the past. When you look at this case against Alicia Andrews, let me know in the comments in the chat if you thought the jury got it right and they found her guilty. Let me know why you think she was guilty. If you think they got it wrong and that the state did not prove that she was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, I want you all to point out and let me know in the comments in the chat why you think that's the case. Let me know. Let me know how y'all are feeling. Shout out to the gang in here. We've got 1,000 of you watching in the building, and most of you like the video. Thank y'all for the love and support and for watching the video. I'm gonna read a couple super chats and we'll get into our next topic. Shout out to my awesome, amazing Amy. The beautiful Amy E says, been here longer than 18 months. That's true. But happy paid membership milestone. Happy bananiversary. Happy belated bananiversary as well to Amy. Amy, we have to, I feel like we have to tell the bananiversary story every time. But if you know, you know. Y'all go back to 18 months ago, find the live stream about Kanye West, and you'll figure out what the bananiversary is. It's not hard to find. Also, shout out to Amy, man. Been in here supporting from day one, behind the scenes, even before that. So Amy's always been working and helping out on the channel. I appreciate everything that she does. Big shout out to Amy. Y'all go support her as well. She has a YouTube channel, posts great content, bingeable content. You can binge watch Amy's entire channel for probably a week straight and still not get tired of it. We were just over there watching the premiere this morning. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure you check out and subscribe to her channel. Link is in the description. And J Money also dropped it for y'all in the chat. And Amy is also showing more love, gifting 5 memberships. If you got a membership from Amy, make sure you say thank you. Check out the members only content we have here on the channel, and you get instant access to all the videos we drop here, including your name highlighted in that beautiful green as well. So if y'all haven't yet, make sure that you do that. Go check out the members only content and say thank you to Amy for showing y'all some love and support in there. Thank you, Amy, for everything that you do. Absolutely amazing. We've also got Spring Flowers in here showing love with the 5 bomb. No comment, just showing some support. Thank you, Spring Flowers. She's always in here supporting as well. And yeah, y'all please go make sure you check out Amy's content because she does a great job. They didn't need all them in the YSL case, and that's why they couldn't get Young Thug. They did a poor job in the YSL case. That's fair. The only thing she didn't do was shoot the gun. She was involved. Alicia knew. The lawyers feel they were professional, but they were not. They should be happy for the time she received. I personally think she got lucky. I thought it was going to be second degree all day, but the jury gave her a break. So I honestly am not sure what her defense team was expecting. And even if you listen to interviews that the defense team did before the trial started for Alicia Andrews, it seemed like they were saying, okay, we know she was involved, but the only reason she was involved is because Isaiah forced her to. It was basically, we're calling it on this channel the ClassE defense. Yes, she did some bad things, but she did it because she was manipulated. She did it because she was forced to. She did it because this big bad man, Isaiah, was making her do all this stuff. And I think that's somewhat of the defense is missing in this interview, that when they put Alicia on the stand, they really said, hey guys, hey jury, we know that she did this stuff. We know she was involved. But the reason she was involved is because she was scared of her boyfriend. And now you can't backtrack and you can't say that to the jury and then backtrack and say, oh, well, you know, other than her being there, guys, I mean, it's not a big deal. No, you already told us she was involved. It's just the big bad Isaiah. He was the one who made her do it. I don't think that was a good move by them. I think that, I don't know if there's other witnesses they should have brought or could have brought. Again, I'm not an attorney, but looking at this and hearing what they had to say and how they defended her as a potential juror, no, wasn't feeling it. She had no emotions and showed she didn't care on the stand. She said his friend died. Yeah, his friend died. What'd you think about that? She's like, I don't care. I didn't care about that. His friend died, whatever, you know, it was his friend. They should. I personally think I didn't need to hear from Alicia. And I said this before, in my opinion, the last time we should have heard from Alicia was when she was sitting there with, what was it, Ramos? Detective Ramos was in there just berating her. And poor, innocent, sweet little Alicia was just sitting there saying she didn't know why she was getting questioned. She didn't know what was going on. She wasn't a part of it. She's like, I'm here talking to y'all because I didn't do anything. So the defense team was trash. Dang! Don't say that. They're gonna come over here next and they'll be upset. Don't say they were trash. I just don't think they I just think the state did a good job of proving that Alicia Andrews was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And the jury agreed, which is really all that matters. And now it's in the hands of the judge after they've been doing all of this social media work. It's all in the hands of the judge to decide what Alicia Andrews' fate is going to be. Let's go ahead and get into this next topic. Thank you again to everyone that's in here, all 11,000 of you that are in the building. This is actually going to be an interesting one, and it's a little bit of a follow-up of a story that we did last week, and we dropped a video about it yesterday. So we talked about this wild story of this police officer who was involved in a sting, and it was basically he was trying to solicit someone to do certain adult acts on him. All right. And the police officer, he goes, he sets everything up. He tries to meet this person, says they could come to the house, but they need to leave before his daughter got there. It was a wild situation. And then they end up deciding to meet in the parking lot of a school, I believe, if I remember right. So he goes, they meet in the parking lot of the school. He asks the person before he gets there, hey, you're not a police officer, right? This is a police chief asking this, right? She says, no, of course not. I'm not police. He goes to meet her. Turns out that she is a police officer. So this police chief was involved in a, I don't know if you would call it trafficking, prostitution, sting, whatever. He was involved. He got caught almost with his pants down. And now we're in this situation to where we're finding out more details about his arrest and what happened and what went on behind the scenes. Y'all check this out. This is this whole situation is somewhat wild. But shout out to the officer. And sorry for the ad playing there. Here we go.
The alleged crime, soliciting sex for a fee. Welcome, everyone, to Western Mass News at 6 on this Wednesday. I'm Chris Pisano.
And I'm Amanda Martin Ryan. We're learning new details on what led to the chief's arrest. Western Mass News reporter Reagan Lockery brings us the story out of Cheshire.
It was here at Hoosick Valley Middle and High School where the Cheshire police chief was arrested. On your screen is the mugshot of Chief Michael Alabozic. Western Mass News learning more about the chief and his arrest from last week. According to court documents, on November 6, an undercover Mass State Police trooper posted an ad on a website specific to escorts and other such services. Within the ad was the undercover trooper's phone number. That same day, just before 9 p.m., the documents state the undercover trooper received a text allegedly from Chief Alabozic. A few messages were exchanged between the two. Then around 9:05 p.m., a text came in from the chief reading, "My daughter will be home at 10:30, so it has to be a quickie." The documents then show after a few more texts, they ultimately agreed to meet at Hoosick Valley Middle and High School in the parking lot near the football field, which is where Alabozic was ultimately arrested. The town has since appointed former Chief Timothy Garner as an administrative consultant, and they expect him to be appointed as interim police chief at a select board meeting this Friday.
That's tough.
The town reached out to the Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission and tells Western Mass News in a statement that they confirmed a municipality may appoint a non-post certified individual to a temporary leadership position only if the role is strictly administrative in nature and the individual does not perform any function that would place them within the statutory definition of law enforcement officer.
And we talked about Post. They are basically the organization that's involved in the internal affairs investigation here. This whole story is crazy, man.
Based on court documents at the time of the arrest, Alabozic told state police he went on a website to try to get girls off the street in an attempt to set them straight. It goes on to say that he has touched base with 4 or 5 females in the past year. Western Mass News.
Now, in regards to his defense, this is going to be really interesting because for him to say that and for that to be his defense, he better have something to back it up. And as a police officer, he might. So what's going to be crazy here is if he is able to prove that, hey, you know, I met with Diamond last week. I went to meet up with her. I had $300 in cash. She got in the car and she said, "Hey, daddy, what you want?" And I looked at her and I said, "Diamond, there's got to be another way, Diamond. Have you heard of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?" Then he hands her the $300. He's like, you know, go forth and sin no more. And he lets her out of the car. Then the week before that, You know, he met with Crystal, did the same thing. Then 2 weeks before that, he met with somebody else. So if the evidence comes out and it shows that that is the case here, it'll be really interesting to see what type of defense that he has when he's facing this suspension or this leave.
To reach out to Alabozic's attorney, they tell us they are currently preparing a defense, adding that he served honorably as a police officer for several years and has done a stellar job as police chief the past 4 years, saying in a statement that reads, in part, from this point, things aren't going to be what they seem, and we think we will be able to show that he acted properly and didn't solicit this. The chief's attorney goes on to remind the public that a person is innocent until proven guilty. For now, reporting in Cheshire, Reagan Lockery for Western Mass.
That is true. He is innocent until proven guilty, but his defense in this story is absolutely insane. Let me know what y'all think in the comments in the chat. Again, this situation and this story is insane. But is it possible, with believing that this man is innocent until proven guilty, that this officer was just out there trying to save these you-know-whats? And he's like, I see these women out here. I just have a heart for them. And I want to let them know that there's another way. Is that possible? If you think it's not possible, give me a percentage of how much you think is possible. If you think it is possible, have you seen this in a case before? I want to know from y'all. Let's read this article and see what's going on here. Cheshire Police Chief Michael A., because I'm going to mess up his name, was arrested last week on charges for soliciting intercourse for a fee following an undercover operation in Massachusetts State Police. According to the court documents, an undercover state police trooper posted an advertisement on the website for escorts and related services on November 6th. The ad included the undercover trooper's phone number. Just before 9 p.m. the same day, the undercover trooper received a text message allegedly from the police chief. After exchanging several messages around 9:05 p.m., a text came from the chief reading, "My daughter will be at home at 10:30. So it has to be a quickie. Man. According to the documents. Okay, they agreed to meet as we heard here. And then they met, and the police chief, once he was caught, he said, I was trying to get girls off the street. So let's go into this video from Law and Crime. And we're actually going to hear from a professional what's the likelihood of this going through and what charges this man is going to be facing. Not looking great.
Defense attorney, do you see another criminal defense attorney saying that this was entrapment?
So I've tried those entrapment cases before, and despite our best efforts, what the prosecutors are going to do is they're going to show this entire conversation between the ex-chief of police and the undercover officer. And in those conversations, he's the one who reaches out first. He talks about having sex. He talks about when they can meet up. He talks about exactly explicitly what he wants to do. And to now allege that it's entrapment, that's difficult to do. It's a tough road to hoe, and I don't think it's there.
Yeah, it is a pretty tough road, especially when he was kind of saying that he was helping these women turn over a new leaf, trying to get them, I guess, out of the business in a way. But then those text messages always going back to those where he wanted to, excuse my language, bend her over. I mean, what's your reaction to just his change of story as soon as he was pretty much busted?
I mean, whenever we see these sort of to catch a predator cases or anything along those lines, the most common refrain that we as the public hear is, well, I wasn't actually going to have sex with this person. Right. I was meeting up with them to tell them how dangerous it would be if I were a psychopath or if I were a murderer. We hear that all the time. It's never true. If this guy has actually, helped some women turn over a new leaf, that's fantastic. It really doesn't appear as that was what was going on here.
Yeah, I mean, again, I asked you guys the question. Let me know what you think in the comments in the chat. Was this guy just trying to tell Diamond about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? Let me know what y'all think in the comments in the chat. Hey, listen, it's possible innocent until proven guilty. Y'all are in the chat roasting this guy. He was out here saving souls in the name of the Lord. Come on, man. I'm sorry. It's funny. It's funny. It's funny. Nobody was harmed. All right. We can laugh about it. This guy's just embarrassed. And I mean, eventually I think he'll be okay. What did Amy say? I got to read Amy's comment. She said, She said, "ClassE, I never want to hear you say, 'Hey, daddy,' again." Well, I just said it. Sorry, you made me say it out loud because I'm reading your comment. Floyd said, "I'd be trying to see the good in people." No, I mean, I truly believe in innocent until proven guilty. And you know what? There may be a 0.01% chance that that's the case. And y'all never know. I mean, this could be the guy that's kept a notebook of all the 20 times over the past 3 years when he's met with the girl, he's given her some money, and then he's helped her find the Lord. So it could happen. It can happen. All right. Oh man. Oh gosh. Y'all put some respect on the police chief's name. Just give him a chance, all right? The brother's out here doing the Lord's work. Shout out to Amy. I can't read some of these comments out loud. Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm 100% positive that wasn't helping him. Yes, I'm sure this person said, yes, I'm sure he's just giving them hundreds of dollars in great advice on how to straighten out. Stop the cap. Nothing funny going on here. Nah, hey, that man knew what he was doing. $100. Oh man, y'all aren't buying it. All right, I'm gonna be professional now. We're gonna keep it classy. Saving lives $1 at a time. See, that's his motto. Some of you get it. Some of y'all are just hating on this poor man. Maybe he's a Jehovah's Witness. Can I tell you about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? I know a lot of you came here to talk about Commissioner Cox, so we're gonna go ahead and get into it here. This man cannot catch a break, and honestly, I don't believe he should. When you lie in 4K like that, especially about something as serious as the Karen Reed trial, we got to hold you accountable. And Michael Cox is just, the evidence against him stacking up. I hope he wasn't involved in the entire Michael Proctor situation, because that's going to be a mess. But yes, again, Michael Cox is back in the news, and we're finding out that in a lawsuit filed against another police officer, there might be some issues with Michael Cox's integrity again. Did he lie? Did he cover something up? We're going to find out here from Boston 25 and see what the situation is. Then I'll remind you guys of what's at stake for Commissioner Michael Cox when it comes to Kelly Dever and him being placed on the Brady list. It's getting ugly here. Check this out.
Getting answers, uncovering the truth. Boston 25 News investigates.
Did a Boston police officer accused of lying get special treatment from the highest levels of the department? That's what a lawsuit obtained by 25 Investigates claims. Investigative reporter Ted Daniel has been working on this story for weeks, and as Ted explains, another Boston cop filed a lawsuit.
The suit was filed by veteran police captain Timothy Goggin. While working in the Internal Affairs Unit, Goggin determined a then rookie officer named Brian Augustine lied in a written report and an interview. Goggin's suit claims he was pressured to change his findings about Augustine years later. Brian Augustine has racked up quite the record since he was pinned as a police officer in 2018. 25 Investigates got his disciplinary history through a public records request. 13 internal affairs cases, 26 sustained violations.
Guys, we talked about this when we were covering the situation with William McNeil, the police officer that was involved in the altercation with William McNeil, although he may have been in the right. Something similar. This guy had a history of certain violations, a history of internal affairs cases, and we're looking at this guy, Brian Augustine. 13 internal affair cases, 26 sustained violations. I appreciate and love our law enforcement, and especially the good ones out there that do their job and have the utmost patience. But when you see something like this, how is this officer continuing to be on the police force? It doesn't make sense. I don't know how the union can stand behind something like this. It seems like it's something very simple to point out and very simple to fix. But nonetheless, it keeps happening. And here we are. Shout out to Ted Daniels for reporting on it.
Brian Augustine has racked up quite the record since he was pinned as a police officer in 2018. 25 Investigates got his disciplinary history through a public records request. 13 internal affairs cases, 26 sustained violations. Among the allegations, drag racing and association with criminals. Some of the violations here are minor, but some are pretty serious.
It's pretty pervasive.
Larry Smith is a former Massachusetts State Police investigator with a master's degree in law enforcement administration.
It starts within days of his graduation from the academy while he was on probation, and it seemed like it was pretty consistent throughout the next several years.
I mean, can't we get a separate company or organization? Amy, I mean, can we start a company that just vets police officers at a basic level? If you have this type of violation within days of you becoming an officer, what are we doing?
It seemed like it was pretty consistent throughout the next several years.
Augustine's first IA case is the subject of a lawsuit filed by Captain Timothy Goggin. Goggin and others determined that Augustine had been untruthful about a confrontation he had with a motorist in downtown Boston. Nearly 5 years later, and after he left the Internal Affairs Unit, Goggin alleges he got a call asking him to change his findings and remove any indication that Augustine lied.
Who was that?
Goggin alleges he was told the request was made on behalf of Police Commissioner Michael Cox.
Are you serious? Again? Of course, Michael Cox is going to deny this. We all know that already.
Untruthfulness is one of the most serious forms of misconduct a police officer can face. Goggin alleges he was told the finding would attract scrutiny from the state and potentially cost Augustine his career. Goggin included this internal memo to Commissioner Cox in his lawsuit. It shows untruthfulness in reports crossed out, the lesser charge, neglect of duty, handwritten next to it.
So you've got 4 superior officers that have already reviewed this report and signed off on. If that is in fact true, that's truly troubling, because why are you interfering with an internal affairs investigation that's already been resolved?
A Boston police spokesperson tells me the department is unable to comment on pending litigation. Goggin states that he refused to change the narrative he wrote about Augustine. As a result, he claims he faced retaliation and a year delay in a promotion he had been scheduled for. Augustine's record shows 8 of his internal affairs cases were settled 2 weeks before Goggin's lawsuit was filed. His punishment, a 15-day suspension and a last chance agreement, which is what it sounds like. We were unable to reach Augustine. Goggin's lawyer declined to provide a statement citing the pending litigation. For 25 Investigates, I'm Ted Daniel.
And again, he asked the right question. The question is why? Why does this keep happening? I mean, are these commissioners, are these chiefs just that lazy? Is it that hard to find police officers that we're going to say, maybe he kicked them one too many times. Let's just bring them on back in here. Maybe he shouldn't have cursed that person out and pushed them over. Just bring them on back in. It seems like it would be so simple to weed out these type of people, because I personally don't believe the police force is full of these type of gentlemen. But all you need is one. And then you got a situation like what happened with William McNeil. You got a situation what happened with George Floyd. You got a situation, however you feel about that. You got a situation that happened with et cetera, and so on and so forth. Like, you just need one Why are they continuing to allow this to happen? It doesn't make sense to me. Because you literally have to go into the forum and say, whoa, let's change this. Let's change this on and get this settled so we can move on and get this officer back out there. I don't understand it. And then we've got more about Commissioner Cox. This guy is just, he can't catch a break. Check this out from News 5 out there in Boston.
Right now at 6, we begin with breaking news. The Department of Justice suing Boston over its immigration policies. That lawsuit filed today in federal court also names Mayor Michelle Wu, Police Commissioner Michael Cox. It claims the Boston Trust Act, which prevents local police from cooperating with federal immigration enforcement, violates the Constitution. That lawsuit states that cities cannot obstruct the federal government from enforcing immigration laws. When that occurs, a city breaks the law. The city of Boston is doing just that. We have reached out to Mayor Wu tonight for a comment.
So in case you guys missed it and you want to remember what this man said, I'm going to play this for you again because I think this is important. And we honestly need to bring this up multiple times a week until this gets solved. Not only there in Boston, but right here in Fulton County and wherever you are, because we can't keep allowing this type of conduct to happen with people that have the utmost power, people who are supposed to uphold the law. Michael Cox in 4K, lying.
Your name came up during the recent Karen Reed trial. You got a visit from Officer Kelly Dever. The defense implied that you influenced her testimony. Do you want to respond to that?
I have nothing to do with Karen Reed. Matter of fact, I didn't even know this person was associated with the Karen Reed case.
Stop the cap.
Alan Jackson's letter. Newly obtained evidence proves that Michael Cox knowingly misrepresented his involvement. On February 22nd of 2024, the FBI Boston's field office sent, this is the FBI sent Commissioner Cox an email explicitly referencing Dever and the Reed investigation. The email from Assistant Special Agent in Charge Stephen Kelleher to Cox said, just a reminder, the documents were released to the DA's office late last night. The officer we spoke about is Kelly Dever. A wise woman once said, no one is above the law. I guess we're going to have to see in this case when it comes to Michael Cox, because the evidence is starting to stack up. You have Ted Daniels over there doing some great work. What do y'all think is going to happen, if anything, moving forward? Is Michael Cox next? Will it be Higgins? Will it be Buchanan? This is wild, man. Absolutely insane. Shout out to the gang, man. We got 13,000 of y'all in the building. It's right there. Alan Jackson laid it out. The FBI said, hey, when it comes to Karen Reed and Kelly Dever, what's going on there? We sent some documents over to the DA's office about that. Oh, really? Okay. Hey, Officer Dever, I need to see you in my office tomorrow. Just heard from the FBI about something. And then he says this.
You know, I have an organization full of over 3,000 people, and we support all our folks. And the reality is that, I get information passed on, whether people are high or low, and I encourage everyone, right? And if you're going to work here and you belong here, then we're going to encourage you.
Why deny it, dude? Why not? No comment. I received communication about the FBI. I'm not comfortable commenting on that. Something, but to straight up just cap, man. Golly. Amy says sometimes it's not who they are. Sometimes it's the choice they choose after the fact. Their ego and thinking they're above the law. Well, in a lot of cases there are. Shout out to Fannie Willis. Boston, unfortunately, has a long history of police corruption. That's true. But I mean, come on, man. Yeah, Augustine should have done the right thing when he knew at the time, not years later. But okay, we will take it if Cox shows as dope. Mayor's ignoring policies all the way down. Somebody has to. I'm just trying to understand. What is so special about this guy that 4 days after he got out of the police academy, just like, brother, it's okay. I mean, is the blue wall of silence just that? Is it just really that strong? Like once you're in, you're in. It would have been nice if Ted dropped this story before 11/6 when Boston reelected the mayor. That appointed Cox. Yeah, real shame because Mayor Wu won't do anything. Well, I mean, as you guys heard in that last story, Mayor Wu might be under fire coming up next as well. And I mean, Alan Jackson, he wrote this letter to the mayor. So that's the thing too. What's going to happen here? Attitudes reflect leadership. Absolutely, man. Y'all know we're going to be following it. And we're going to stay up to date on what's going on with Commissioner Cox, especially in light of everything we're seeing happening with Michael Proctor. So there's too many Michaels here. Everybody's named Michael in there. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this next one. And I need to, how do I want to do this? I was not prepared with the right picture for this. So we're just going to have to wing it. So this is going to be an interesting one. And it kind of ties into Karen Read. So that's why I've got Alan Jackson up there. But if you guys haven't heard about the Brian Walsh situation, I'm going to give you a complete story and complete background. Brian Walsh's trial is about to start soon. And this is basically a man who is alleged to have deleted his wife in a very gruesome and brutal way. He maintains his innocence. Obviously, we believe he's innocent until proven guilty here. I personally intentionally have not been following this trial, but we're going to look at this together and understand and learn what's happening with Brian Walsh before we start covering this when it goes to trial in the next coming weeks. Now, you may be wondering, that name sounds familiar. We have talked about Brian Walsh here on this channel, but it was related to Michael Proctor because Michael Proctor was involved in a part of the Brian Walsh murder investigation. So we're going to hear about Proctor as we go throughout this trial. Proctor may actually have an effect on how the court proceedings go, considering the 13 years plus of emails and information that they found on his iCloud. But let's check this out and get an idea of what's happened and what's going on here with Brian Walsh and why he's on trial in the first place.
A major development breaking right now in the case of missing Cohasset mother Anna Walsh. We can now confirm that her husband, Brian Walsh, is charged with her murder. Again, he's been charged with her murder. The warrant against Walsh issued moments ago by a clerk magistrate in Quincy District Court. Brian Walsh had previously been charged with misleading investigators regarding the disappearance of his wife. This all started when Anna Walsh, a mother of 3 young boys, was reported missing on January 4th.
Sad,
that report to police came from her employer, a high-profile real estate firm in Washington, D.C. She was last seen by a friend with her husband, Brian, on New Year's Eve at their home in Cohasset. Brian Walsh was first taken into custody back on January 8th. As a 5 Investigates photographer captured this exclusive video of Walsh being led into the police department there in Cohasset in handcuffs. The next day, Walsh smiled here for the cameras as he was taken to his arraignment. In court, prosecutors allege that he lied about his whereabouts after Anna's disappearance, including a trip to Home Depot where he paid $450 for various cleaning supplies. They also claim that police found blood in the Walsh's basement and a damaged knife. 5 Investigators.
Guys, everybody's watching an episode of CSI at some point in their life, right? Why are we committing crimes and buying cleaning supplies? Can someone tell me why that's still happening? I mean, even to the most sophisticated of convicted murderers, we're out here going to Home Depot and buying cleaning supplies. I don't get it.
Smiled here for the cameras as he was taken to his arraignment. In court, prosecutors allege that he lied about his whereabouts after Anna's disappearance, including a trip to Home Depot where he paid $450 for various cleaning supplies. They also claim that police found blood in the Walsh's basement and a damaged knife. 5 Investigates has learned that a search of a transfer station in Peabody in this case, which is not far from his mother's home in Swampscott, resulted in the discovery of a bloody rug, a tarp, and a hacksaw. All of those, we understand, were tested for DNA evidence. Again now, the news just in, Brian Walsh officially charged in the murder of his wife who's been missing, Anna Walsh. We expect to learn more in the hours ahead, of course. We're tracking every angle on this. We've got a crew of reporters on this story today. Stay with News Center 5, WCVB.com, and our
Shout out to News 5. So now we fast forward to this past week, over the last couple of days, getting close to Brian Walsh's trial. There was one issue that was remaining, and that was whether Brian Walsh was going to be competent to stand for trial. Judge made a ruling on that, and now we're here getting ready for trial. Shout out to over here on Fox News. They say, and shout out to Fox News, that the judge rules Boston fraudster, why did I read that fundraiser? Judge rules that Boston fraudster Brian Walsh competent to stand trial in his wife's murder. Brian Walsh survived a jailhouse attack in September before competency evaluation. Let's hear what's going on here. Goodness gracious. Hopefully I can get this to load.
Newly released photos show accused murderer Brian Walsh buying a hacksaw, cleaning supplies, and disposing of a trash bag into a dumpster just hours after his wife's disappearance.
Come on,
As
man.
new court documents reveal, the mom of 3 spent Thanksgiving in Dublin with a boyfriend. And according to prosecutors, Walsh suspected the affair and had his mom hire a private investigator. Anna Walsh disappeared on New Year's Day, and her body has not been found.
Retired FBI Special Agent Nicole Parker joins us now to react. Thank you,
Nobody.
Nicole. So new photos, new information here. What does it tell you about the case against Brian Walsh?
As a former special agent, I have conducted investigations into similar cases where the husband has killed the wife. Obviously, he is innocent until proven guilty. This is a first-degree murder charge. They will need to prove intent, but the evidence is mounting. It looks very solid for the prosecution.
But Nicole, as we read, sadly, they haven't found the body yet. How much of his defense would be, I didn't do it and there's no body and you can't prove? I mean, how much of a hurdle is that for investigators?
You know, that's always going to be defense's first statement is, oh, you know, there's no body, they're just missing. Well, I can tell you that typically people that go missing, and in studies that have been performed by the FBI in the past, you know, about 70% of people that are missing are found within 24 to 48 hours. Clearly, this has been several months. But the no body factor is not something that is going to stop from proving a homicide or a first-degree murder charge in this. It's actually quite common that there's no body, but when there's ample evidence that proves what he did to dispose of the body, which is happening in this case, then it's not a hurdle that they cannot overcome.
Yeah, I mean, who the heck goes and buys a hacksaw, right? I mean, all of the things are there.
Not great.
And that could be enough, right? It's circumstantial.
Well, you know, there's also something very important that investigators are going to be looking at, and that's behaviors. We're going to be, they're going to be looking at pre-offense behaviors, offense behaviors, and post-offense behaviors. Is it normal for Brian Walsh to be going on New Year's Day to go buy $400 worth of cleaning supplies? Is it normal for him to be taking a trash bag to a dumpster to dispose of something, wearing a mask by himself in the evening hours? I mean, you just need to look at the logical, again, pre-offense, offense, and post-offense behaviors. That is critical in this investigation.
And then, Nicole, prosecutors put together a picture, right? And it's different than I think maybe the case that we all have in our head. It's completely circumstantial. So the picture that we're talking about is what you can draw from all these pieces of evidence that don't directly point to the crime, but when you put them all together, here he is buying the supplies. Here he is Googling how to do it. Here he is changing his behavior pattern.
He Googled
you hope to
it?
have a picture
Oh, man.
that reflects reality.
Oh, absolutely. You're going to be piecing everything together. But quite frankly, considering cases I've investigated, this is solid. I mean, you've got Google searches of how to get rid of a body. How long does it take for a body to smell? Why was he using his son's iPad to do the searches? Well, he probably thought that the investigators weren't going to be searching the son's iPad. He probably thought that his searches were safe on that iPad. To me, this is a very, very solid case for the prosecution. We always look at, was there a life insurance policy? Was there a divorce in the future? And all of those things point to a potential guilty individual here.
All right.
There you go. Wow.
All right. Well, now that we know we've got somewhat of the full story, because there's two sides to every story. What do you guys think about this in the comments in the chat? I've got one more video I want to show you. We're going to get into with the Google searches and the cleaning supplies. I mean, I somewhat agree that this seems like a pretty solid case, and he's going to have a tough time fighting that one, to be honest.
TV, I'm Kelly Craft in Today for Ted Rollins. Thank you for being with us. We're going to turn now to Massachusetts, where Brian Walsh is back in court today for a competency hearing. Walsh was set to go to trial for the murder of his wife last month, but his trial was delayed after a judge ordered Walsh to undergo a mental health evaluation. Prosecutors allege Walsh murdered and dismembered his wife, Anna, on New Year's Day in 2023. Her body has never been found. Before we get you back into the courtroom there or into court, here's Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson with more on this case against Brian Walsh.
No comment from Brian Walsh after he was charged with the murder of his wife, Anna Walsh, the missing Massachusetts mother of 3 young boys. And while he's not talking, prosecutors are piecing together a timeline of what they say he was doing in the days after her disappearance. Prosecutors say that Anna Walsh was last seen here at her Cohasset home on New Year's Day. Anna was last seen at home between 4 and 5 a.m. by a family member. Walsh told police that he had slept in that morning, but prosecutors say that he was actually awake and searching disturbing topics on his son's iPad.
At 4:55 a.m. on January 1st, he searched how long before a body starts to smell.
The very next day, more Google searches.
There were also more Google searches on January 2nd. At 12:45 p.m., hacksaw best tool to dismember. At 1:10 p.m., can he be charged with murder without a body? At 1:14 p.m., can you identify a body with broken teeth?
Jeez. Prosecutors say that on January 2nd, Walsh came here to this Home Depot store, located in Rockland, Massachusetts, 9 miles from his house. He spent $450 on cleaning supplies.
Items included cleaning products, mops, brushes.
On January 3rd, prosecutors say Walsh drove to an apartment complex in Abington, 16 miles from his home, where they say surveillance video shows him hoisting a heavy garbage bag into a dumpster. At 4:48 p.m., prosecutors say Walsh drove to a second apartment complex in Abington. And at 5:10 p.m., investigators say he threw items away into a dumpster in Brockton. Then on January 6th and 7th, police searched the Walsh property in Cohasset. Prosecutors collected a lot of evidence in the basement of this home, including DNA blood evidence and 2 knives. On January 8th, Walsh was arrested for misleading police in his wife's missing person investigation. The next day, he was arraigned and pled not guilty. Then on January 17th, prosecutors announced that he would be charged with her murder. The next day, he was back in court.
The defendant is now before the court charged with murder of his wife, Anna Walsh, as well as disinterring of a body.
All right, so that's the story. What do y'all think about this? From what you're hearing so far, I'm not gonna lie, it ain't looking great for our guy Brian Walsh. But again, knowing Proctor was involved, if I believed innocent until proven guilty before, I even more so believe it now. Proctor could have gotten some of the things in this right, and we're going to hear about his involvement leading into and during the trial. But we got to hear from the defense on this one a lot, because what we're seeing so far isn't looking great for Brian Walsh. Let me know what y'all think in the comments and in the chat. We again got 13,000 of y'all in this building. Thank you to everyone who's in here. I don't ask for much, but I do ask that you like the video. Likes are free. All right. Y'all can like the video. I know you're going to have a great time here. You're going to have some great interactions in the chat. And even if you disagree, you won't be shamed for it. We can have a good back and forth. We can have a conversation respectfully. I don't want to be in an echo chamber to where we all just think and believe the same thing. I think having different perspectives and having the conversation is how we move things forward. So, hey, shout out to the gang, and shout out to TB for giving me a shout out last night. That was super dope of him. If y'all came over here from Turtle Boy's channel, let me know. Y'all know we support TB over here. That man has done some amazing, great work. And y'all make sure you go over there and support him as well. And shout out to him for using one of the videos we made on this live stream last night. That was super dope. Thank you to my awesome, amazing Amy over there dropping the cake, reminding me not only does she have the cakiest cake in the business, but I need to make sure that I get some lunch. So I will do that, Amy. Thank you for the love as always. And thank you for the amazing cake. You can, I mean, if you want to bring some cake over here, I will be happy to partake. All right. We can pause the show for a minute for some cake, right? Hey, yo. All right, let me keep it moving. So glad Turtle Boy told everyone to come subscribe to you last night. Yeah, that was super dope of him. I appreciate it for sure. I've been a long time TV watcher, but I also found you during YSL. That was phenomenal coverage on your part. Thank you. We had a good time during the YSL trial. That was, man, I was looking back yesterday at all the coverage we had during the YSL trial. That was crazy. Absolutely insane. Why? I'm glad it's over for their sakes, though. That was over a year ago that Young Thug took his plea deal. It was on Halloween last year. He had a mental health evaluation because he, being Brian Walsh, he was stabbed in the head a few weeks ago. Dang. It was more to keep him safe and out of the Dedham jail. And again, the only reason I'm looking at and playing this stuff is even though we're going to be viewing the trial as a jury would, the jury, prospective jurors are looking at this and watching this stuff right now. So I think we're okay to look at it. Y'all said TB is just under TB. No, it should be Turtle Boy Live. It's a YouTube channel. I miss the good old YSL days, man. I know Young Thug doesn't. I know Yak doesn't. I know Shannon Stillwell does not at all. Loved hearing the shout out to you from TB. You deserve all the praise. Oh, no. All praise goes to God. Can I get an amen in the chat? But I appreciate the love from him for sure. I found you on my own. I heard your voice and I was hooked. Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Let's see. You've been a longtime watcher of TB. Yup. Yeah. Shout out to all the Turtle Boy supporters in here. I appreciate y'all. I laughed my butt off as the YSL trial was going on. Hey, it was frustrating, man. The YSL trial, although I enjoyed covering it, that trial was frustrating. From everything that was going on with Judge Glanville to Judge Whitaker, having to deal with the BS from the DA's office and from the state. I mean, my goodness, man. Thank you to Amy for dropping Turtle Boy's link in the chat. Y'all go follow and check out Turtle Boy Live. Great seeing you on TB last night. I followed you since YSL. Free Turtle Boy. Yeah. Tell him to leave him alone. Y'all miss Miss Love? Oh. Are you kidding me? Shout out to Miss Love. I think she's on to bigger and better things, but no, that was brutal. She needs to chill out. So I want to, now that we're finally getting into what's going on with Brian Walsh, I want to give you guys a little bit of a background with the whole Brian Walsh story. So what we're going to do is we're going to check out a video here from NBC News 10 in Boston, find out what's going on with jury selection, find out what's going to happen to Brian Walsh moving forward, and then we'll get a little bit of a background story of how we got here in the first place. Check this out.
We are 2 days away from the start of the Brian Walsh murder trial. He is accused of killing his wife. That happened 2 years ago. Now, Walsh has pleaded not guilty to all charges against him. Actually, last week, a judge found that he was competent to stand trial for those crimes.
And Walsh will be in court tomorrow for a final pretrial hearing before jury selection begins on Tuesday. And tonight, our Jericho Tran spoke to our chief legal analyst about what to expect.
Here we go.
Yeah, we're expecting this to be another high-profile murder trial, garnering a lot of public attention, very similar to what we saw during the Karen Reed trial. I'm sure you remember the people that were packing the sidewalks as well as the streets. I spoke with our chief legal analyst, Michael Coyne, about the similarities between the two trials and what we can expect.
Jury selection begins this week in the murder trial of Brian Walsh, who is accused of murdering his wife, Anna Walsh. The Cohasset father faces charges for killing, dismembering, and discarding the body of his wife, Anna, 3 years ago around New Year's in 2023. But her remains were never found.
That's obviously an essential element of any homicide prosecution. It's usually the easiest element of any homicide prosecution, but without a body, it's a little more difficult.
Last week, a judge determined Walsh is able to stand trial following a competency evaluation at Bridgewater State Hospital.
He has a number of very important decisions to make, whether he wants to try and plea, whether he wants to testify, how he directs his defense. All of those things are essential to do as a defendant who's facing life imprisonment.
Oh, we have not talked about a plea. Do you all think Brian Walsh should take a plea? Now, again, we saw with Karen Reed, people were saying, take the plea, they're going to get you. Based on what we saw in pretrial, in preliminary hearings, and even in opening statements. Then, of course, at a mistrial the first time, came back the second time, Karen Reed found not guilty other than OUI, right? Do you all think that Brian Walsh should take a plea deal? from what I've seen so far with Brian Walsh, it ain't looking great. But still, the burden of proof is on the state. We have to remember this throughout everything. Is someone buying a bunch of cleaning supplies, $400 worth of cleaning supplies, enough for you to believe beyond a reasonable doubt that they dismembered and hid the body of their spouse? We got to hear about motive. We got to hear about opportunity. There's so much information here that is unknown. But either way, let me know what y'all think about that in the comments in the chat too.
County Superior Court now expected to take center stage again, just months after the conclusion of the Karen Reed trial.
Well, I think like we saw in the Karen Reed case, where the investigators are out of the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, that there is some real concern there now in the public and perhaps by members of the jury as to whether the investigation was conducted as professionally and as appropriately as it should have been.
Former Massachusetts State Trooper Michael Proctor served as the lead investigator during the Karen Reed case.
Yikes.
And was also involved with the investigation into Anna Walsh's disappearance.
It raises all of those issues again about his level of professionalism and did he rush to judgment in Karen Reed? Did he rush to judgment here? So that same type, some of that same evidence will be used here to try and create that reasonable doubt.
And we haven't found out yet, too, if Proctor is going to testify here. Wouldn't that be awkward if Proctor has to testify during this trial? Dang, man. Are we going to get a opinion on the husband text?
Same evidence will be used here to try and create that reasonable doubt.
And jury selection is expected to take about 2 weeks. And then after Thanksgiving, that's when we can expect to hear those testimonies, probably around that first week of December. But you're going to want to stay tuned here to NBC 10 Boston because we will be following this every step of the way. In Dedham, Jericho Tran, NBC 10 Boston.
And we're going to be following that case, too, after Thanksgiving once jury selection takes place. Man, if Proctor testifies, that would be wild. So let's go over to Court TV. Now we're going to get more of an in-depth look at what's going on with this Brian Walsh trial. Vinny's going to help us out and break down the entire story and some of the evidence we've seen so far. Here we go. Shout out to the dope intro.
And the subject of my investigation is the disappearance of Anna Walsh, the mother of 3 young boys. Investigators have not found her, but they believe they know what happened and who is responsible. Here's the story. Anna Walsh was born in Serbia in 1983. After graduating from a university in Belgrade, she eventually moved to the United States in 2005. She became a dual citizen. Anna worked in the hospitality industry at various hotels, and it was at one of those hotels where she met Brian Walsh. In 2016, Brian and Anna got married and started a family. Together, they were raising 3 young boys. In 2022, Anna obtained a position with a real estate company, which forced her to split time between her home with her family in Massachusetts and Washington, D.C. This move, along with Brian's federal indictment related to an art scam, put a lot of strain on their relationship. Then, after spending New Year's having dinner with friends, Anna seemingly vanished. She was reported missing by her employer in D.C. and by Brian on January 4th. Investigators suspected Brian and ended up executing a search warrant which uncovered evidence they believe proves Brian murdered and dismembered Anna, despite the fact that her remains have never been found. Brian has been charged with Anna's murder and is locked up waiting for his trial. Think about this story and Anna Walsh, 3 young kids at home.
Dang.
Where did she go? You know, we've seen this fact pattern, unfortunately, several times before through the years here at Court TV. A couple with young children, and all of a sudden, someone goes missing. Usually it's the wife, the mom. So,
unfortunately,
why do prosecutors believe that Brian Walsh could do this? Well, I want you to take a listen to the prosecutor at Brian Walsh's arraignment, talking about Brian and Anna and what was going through the mind of the accused killer.
In December of 2022, it had become evident that Mr. Walsh was suspecting his wife of having an affair. He was routinely visiting the Instagram page of one of her male friends. And on December 26th, his mother, with his input and direction, obtained and hired a private investigator to surveil Anna Walsh in Washington, D.C. On December 27th, the oldest son's iPad was used to research best states to get divorced in and worst states to get divorced in.
That's not great.
A private investigator suspected that something was happening here. That brings us to our first question in this investigation, and it's about the Walshes. What was going on in their relationship? And how would that be connected to any potential motive for murder? Joining me to help figure all this out, longtime reporter in Massachusetts at Boston 25 News, Bob Ward is with us, and the host of Talking Live and the Bite Size podcast, a psychotherapist who wrote a book on killer spouses, Dr. Ravi Ludwig. Great to have you both here. Before we dive fully into this, I just want to put one more thing out there. And this was the paramour, the alleged man that Anna was seeing, speaking with police. And this is January 7th, 2023. So it's about a week into the investigation. And you may recognize this name, Sergeant Y. Buchanan, which is Yuri Buchanan from the Karen Reed case. And Detective Lopes traveled to Washington, D.C. and spoke with attorneys that represent, and we've redacted the name of the alleged paramour, who resides in D.C. and is the most frequent contact with Anna on cell phone records in possession of investigators. So they're talking a lot on the phone. Statements to investigators is that he was in a dating relationship with Anna Walsh and had been for several months. The relationship became more serious over the past few months, and they had spent Thanksgiving together in Dublin and spent Christmas Eve together also. They were open about their relationship in Washington, D.C., and they had plans to celebrate the new year on January 4th, 2022, after she returned from Massachusetts.
Not great.
Okay, Bob Ward, it seems that this was a strained relationship, and a couple things in play, right? The fact she's got this new job out of town, and he's got this indictment.
Yeah, the indictment, you can't overstate that enough, as being a major role here in what was driving that wedge between them. He had the indictment for selling, a federal indictment for selling fake Andy Warhol prints. He was looking at serious jail time, substantial fines.
Yeah.
You know, going back even further than that, he also had issues with his father, who passed away, and issues over his will. And it just financially, he presented as somebody other than who he was. So he presented as somebody who was well off and connected, when really he was just scrounging for money. This is according to the prosecution. And he was putting up this false front, and he could not afford the lifestyle that he tried to portray himself as having. But there was even trouble before that. Vinny, back in 2014, while they were still dating, she told police down in D.C. that he threatened to kill her and all of her friends, but she stayed with this guy. And, you know, that relationship may have been open down in D.C., but it certainly was not up here in Massachusetts, where he was on house arrest, waiting sentencing for that federal case. And in December of 2022, he caught wind of what was really going on, and that sent all these events in motion.
All right, Doc.
And that, I think, is when it comes to motive and the means, this is going to be the toughest thing, because he was facing those federal charges before he allegedly murdered his wife, before his wife disappeared. So this guy was under a lot of pressure. He's looking at a lot of jail time already, and he had pled guilty to the federal charges in April 2021. Then you have his life spiraling out of control, and most likely looking at doing some significant jail time, being away from the kids. And then do you have a situation of, if I can't have her, nobody can have her? Find out maybe she's starting to move on because she knows things are getting ugly. Oh boy, Brian, man, this is This is definitely going to be an interesting one. Again, y'all know we're going to be here to cover this thing from start to finish. So let me know what y'all think in the comments in the chat. Innocent to proven guilty, of course, but from what you've seen so far, what are you thinking about Brian Walsh? Yikes. And I'm finding out more and more as we do research here. This is sad. April 2021, Brian Walsh pled guilty to federal charges. 1 count of wire fraud, 1 count of interstate transportation for a scheme to defraud, and 1 count of unlawful monetary transaction. The case involved a multi-year art fraud scheme where he sold what he claimed were genuine Andy Warhol paintings in his Shadow series that turned out to be fake. At the time of his wife Anna Walsh's disappearance in January 2023, Walsh was under house arrest awaiting sentencing for his federal case. Dang. That's sad, man. Oh, that's so sad. So sad. So sad. Anyone that loves their kids will protect their mother above their ego. He was going to jail anyway, so what does he care about her moving on romantically? I mean, it could be he just saw her moving on, was going to be happy, and he was going to be stuck in jail trying not to drop the soap every day. I mean, hurt people. That's what they say. And this man's life was, it seemed like it was over. A lot of people do that, man. A lot of people are struggling and then they'll just take somebody with them. Pathology of a wacko. So did they track his movements via ankle monitor? So we're going to have to wait and see and find out. The ankle monitor did not have location enabled. It was more for time. That is why I talk to myself. I say, don't kill her. Just be quiet. They are all going to laugh at you. What are you talking about, Mr. Brown? Don't be typing that type of stuff in the chat. They're watching. When the lies catch up. Yeah. I mean, I cannot wait to hear opening statements from the state. Or would it be the Commonwealth in this case? The Commonwealth. We're going to have to wait and see. So anyway, we've been covering points and key places during this Devyn Michaels trial. And as some of you may have seen, Devyn Michaels was found guilty. We're going to actually get into the verdict being read here, and then we're going to go back and do a little bit of a rewind and see what her defense had to say during closing arguments, because that's going to be very interesting and key into parts of this verdict and later on into the sentencing. So check this out. We'll get right into it. Devyn Michaels, she's going to be in jail for a while.
Person, has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes.
If you could pass the verdict form to the marshal. All right, the clerk will now read the verdict into the record.
District Court, Clark County, Nevada. State of Nevada plaintiff versus Devyn Jade Michaels, a.k.a. Devyn Willett, a.k.a. Nikki Fairchild, a.k.a. Tracy Baker, a.k.a. Tracy Nicole Tavares, defendant. Case number C-23-377-239-1, Department 10. Verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, find the defendant, Devyn Jade Michaels, as follows. Count 1, murder with use of a deadly weapon. Guilty of first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon. Dated this 14th day of November, 2025, signed Aaron Gilded. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict as read? So say you one, so say you all?
Yes. Does either side desire to have the jury polled?
Of course they do.
No, Your Honor.
All right.
Oh, no.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want to thank you very much for the time and attention that you paid to this matter. The right to a trial by jury is a right that's guaranteed in the Constitution, but it's a right that we cannot provide without our citizens like you being willing to sit and serve your civic duty as jurors. I do appreciate the time that you gave this matter, so on behalf of the court and the parties, I want to thank you for the time and attention. I know that this was a lot that we asked you to do, so if you guys could follow the marshal to the back, and I will come back and formally excuse you from jury duty. All right, to the jury.
Crazy, man. said don't cry. I'm not crying. Hey, Lizzie, y'all telling me don't cry in the chat. I am not crying for Devyn Michaels. The evidence was overwhelming in this case, and we saw that in just the few days of we covered of this case. It's like, man, we're go ahead, lock her up.
Okay, this matter is going to be referred to the Division of Parole and Probation, set down for sentencing on
January 8th at 9 a.m.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to go back and talk to the jury, and the least that they desire to speak to you guys, I'll come back and have you. But it's late, I'm going to allow them to. Thank you.
So now that we've heard the verdict, what we're going to do next is we'll go ahead and get into the defense's closing arguments. And we're not going to listen to the entirety of it, but I wasn't listening to key parts. And I want you all to decide, as the jury here on this channel, if you think the jury made the right decision based on what we hear in the closing arguments, or did they maybe miss something? Let's see.
Review the evidence. There is an instruction that I think is of paramount importance in this case, and it's instruction 32. It concerns the credibility or the believability of a witness should be determined by his manner upon the stand, his relationships to parties, his fears, motives, interests, or feelings, his opportunity to observe the matter to which he testified, the reasonableness of his statements, and the strength or weaknesses of his recollections. If you believe that a witness has lied about any material fact in the case, you may disregard the entire testimony of that witness or any portion of his testimony which is not proved by other evidence.
Oh, and for those of you who are just tuning in and didn't watch this trial at all, the defense was trying to paint the picture that her stepson turned husband, yes, you heard that right, he was her stepson, and then they got married. I'm not going to give the details of that. If you want to find out the details, we covered it on this channel. So the defense was pointing the finger at her stepson husband and saying that he possibly could have been involved and that maybe Devyn was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Keep that in mind.
I read this instruction to you with Devyn in mind. You know, we started this case talking about motivations. Motivations dictate actions. Devyn is not on trial. You know, this case is not going to be, well, did we prove our case against Devyn better than they proved their case against Devyn? Devyn is the only person that's on trial. We have gone through the evidence in good faith, and I'm going to discuss that a little bit with you today in my summation.
Yeah, please.
There is evidence to believe that Devyn committed this crime, but you don't have to believe that
there you go.
To acquit my client. But I would submit to you that you should take that into consideration. The ultimate determination that you will make is the sole judgment of the facts, whether the state has proven this case beyond a reasonable doubt. Through the course of this case, and as you know, when we talked about it, we wouldn't have to ask a single question, present a single line of testimony. If the state fails to prove their case, she's entitled to a verdict of not guilty. But as this evidence has unfolded, I would urge you to see that perhaps the detectives in this case, the Henderson Police Department, were basically trying to choose the shortest distance between 2 points. I mean, hey, we knew, and we all know, and we're not making issue that she was with him on the night in question. It's easy to reach a judgment like they did. She's guilty. But you, as jurors, must consider all of the evidence. Because unlike when you read in the paper, so-and-so's caught, and you think, yeah, he's guilty, she's guilty, you determine whether a person is guilty, not the police and not the state of Nevada. I would urge you to read the reasonable doubt instruction. A defendant is presumed innocent until the contrary is proved. This presumption places upon the state the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt every element of the crime charged and that the defendant is the person who committed the offense. And again, This is why we have addressed what the evidence reasonably shows concerning Devyn. A reasonable doubt is one based on reason. It is not mere possible doubt, but is such a doubt as would govern or control a person in the more weighty affairs of life. And what more weighty affair of life do you have than to sit on this jury on this type of charge? If the minds of the jurors, after the entire comparison and consideration of all the evidence, are in such a condition that they say they feel an abiding conviction of the truth of the charge, there is not a reasonable doubt. Doubt to be reasonable must be actual, not mere possibility or speculation. If you have a reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the defendant, she is entitled to a verdict, not guilty. Since this is a charge of murder, I'd like to begin my comments, and I won't be long. I mean, we've been here a long time, but this is important. Let's begin at the autopsy. We had Dr. Sims, who was the lead coroner here in Clark County for 19.5 years. Wow. You heard his testimony. It wasn't much of a cross because he didn't say much to be disagreed with. We did, however, hear from Dr. Yagi. Do you recall the question that was posed to her? Would you agree with me that a decapitation is difficult to effectuate? Remember her answer? I don't know, I've never done one. We heard from Dr. Sims, yes, it would be difficult. It takes a lot. It's involved. Dr. Yagi missed the tattoos. It was in the report. We had Oriental John. That kind of goes to the weight that you should give her testimony and the thoroughness of her examination of the body. The state's relying upon Dr. Yagi's statement, her testimony that there was no injury on the hand. You got to consider the source. Dr. Sims testified that the cause of death cannot be determined without evidence of injury, and he was talking about standard practices. Obviously, these are very suspicious circumstances. In fact, if John was murdered, it's very reasonable to assume, common sense would dictate, that the person that killed him decapitated him. And through the course of this evidence, they have not shown a scintilla of evidence that she was involved with the decapitation. She didn't do it. Determination of homicidal violence cannot be used when enlarged heart, fatty liver, or drugs and alcohol are present. He was talking basically about the industry standards, what experts in this field collectively agreed upon. And we saw a variation in this case from Dr. Yagi. In this case, we did have a combination of all three. You heard the testimony about 20 times the level of THC, alcohol in the body. 0.02 was the alcohol in the blood, but Dr. Sims testified that that, in conjunction with this high level of THC, would cause a person to be intoxicated. That's important in this case because you will hear testimony concerning her concern, Devyn's concern about not letting him drive. As you recall, we went through all those texts beginning back in 2018 concerning Yoko's concern. And again, I don't want to speak ill of the dead, and it was no showing of disrespect towards her, but it was an ongoing concern that she had. She didn't want her son driving drunk, and that concern was shared by Devyn. She had his key. She took the key to the house. That's not evidence that she committed a murder.
Well, okay.
This is extremely important, and there's been a great deal of issue made concerning this video evidence. As you recall, through the course of Devyn's testimony, I read it to you at the beginning of the trial and read it to him, where basically we had a detective, it was the 12th of September, telling him, you're under the radar. We're here to clear you. I mean, when you look at the radar, when you look at this net that was cast, it has so many holes in it. The state would have you believe that both homes were under 24-hour surveillance. It's just not true. The evidence of Detective Lippisch and the other detectives show that. The state expects you to accept representations made by Detective Lippisch regarding the true time of the videos from this residence, and I want to start there. This concerns the state's timeline, which I would tell you flies in the face of common sense, but it's important to take into this concerns the state's timeline, which I would tell you. Do you recall the list of times or the videos that were shown? He supposedly didn't. It was on a neighbor's cell phone. We saw no logs. We saw no indication of the veracity or the accuracy of those times. The state's basing this idea that she's pulling up in front of the Talavera residence and is somehow moving her car at 11:04 to avoid detection. You have to take this detective at his word. And again, I'm not necessarily saying he's lying, but he did a sloppy job of collecting that evidence. And this is the video evidence that I'm referring to. Remember, there was no embedded data here. We don't have time. He would have you believe that the vehicle is moved at 11:04. We don't know what time this is occurring.
Yeah, there's no time on the
We
camera.
do know that the vehicle perhaps was moved from the burla, but we don't know the sequence of events. As you recall, and you will have the evidence, there was various blue lines showing triangles, and we heard that through the positioning of the GPS, you have movement, even if a vehicle is in one place. We don't have specific times, and we really don't know the order of how things occurred. We would urge you to believe and to consider that common sense would dictate that this was when Devyn left the residence at 2:04. There's going to be a close-up here. You'll have a computer screen. Zoom in on it.
Car locking.
Here you see the interior of the vehicle. You see Devyn getting in. You see a bag on the passenger seat. And she leaves. Please pay close attention. And again, I'm not trying to tell you to, but we had this case for a much longer time than you have. Look at the video evidence from 6505 Taylor Creek. Detective Lippish testified several times that he could only speak to items that he canvassed for, but he was happy to testify concerning other detectives who went unnamed that collected this evidence. It's clear from the testimony of a forensic examiner, O'Brien, whose credentials and whose testimony went unchallenged that we presented to you today. He testified that one of the 3 videos was compiled from a series of screenshots, which the Ring camera is set to capture by default in the absence of video activity. Where are the other screenshots? They only gave us 3. I'm not going to stand here and point the finger and say that this was done in bad faith. It was done out of sloppiness. Why weren't subpoenas issued? Why don't we get the complete record? This woman is on trial for murder. We heard nothing concerning them going to the
Why didn't we get it?
providers, Ring, Google, other parties. No, they're relying upon the cooperation of neighbors who are living their own lives and who very well may be indifferent to the gravity of this situation. Didn't give us the full picture, and that was the video that had constant, I mean, if you got a good scene into or a good view of the residence, it's incomplete. We just have these 3. And again, this is at the new residence where it's been referred to. Porcupine here, we've got the truck.
And we saw this video too.
You know, there's been an argument made that Devyn had to have been in the home the whole time. Based on what? Because the entrance to the neighborhood, which the continuous camera doesn't show a vehicle. There's other ways to leave that residence. There's a walkway next to it, 1 house away. There's over the fence. This is something that's been discarded by the state, but again, I would submit to you that it goes to what Devyn is thinking. It goes to her innocence. She starts trying to contact Jonathan on the morning of the 7th, starting about 4 a.m. She'd left him. She'd left him at the residence. The plan was that they were going to take the girls to school that morning, and we have evidence, and you've heard uncontradicted evidence that that's what she did. The message she leaves him is concerning the girls' school supplies. She's letting him know that their daughter was sick, because we know that she's at that pharmacy, and it's a 24-hour pharmacy at 2:28 a.m. That's what went on. She hadn't killed him and decapitated him. She was worried about getting her daughters to school that morning. She sends messages of concern when he doesn't respond. The state claims, and again, this is where common sense comes into question. The state claims that Devyn was answering Jonathan's phone from the house the morning of 8/7/2023. You heard the argument concerning the notifications. We did hear from Detective Skinner that they didn't put it on airplane mode. Those notifications wouldn't have shown up. That evidence, like so many other pieces of evidence, were mishandled. The state's gonna have you believe that she purposely took the phone from Paladera to Porcupine Rim and leave it out on the driveway, and at the same time be calling it and answering it and leaving it on the driveway. That flies in the face of common sense. She took it and left it there, and then is answering it and calling it to provide some sort of an alibi. She's lucky that in this very slipshod investigation that she has as much evidence that she does to present to you that she didn't commit this crime. Crime scene, the footprints. There are footprints in the backyard. And we have, and I'll show you the photos, we marked them and had them admitted. We have this, the Henderson Police Department documenting these footprints, but then trying to basically throw shade on that, saying, well, they could have been there for some time. They weren't important. When you look at the photo, you can see that they're fresh. They wanted to argue that they're male or female. They didn't do any follow-up. There was no footprint comparisons to anybody's shoes in this case, much less Devier's. You recall Yoko's testimony, there were 4 dogs in the backyard. If that footprint had been there for very long, common sense would dictate that the dogs would have walked through it. They would have been sullied.
Okay, all right. That's enough of this. Let me know what y'all think. Devyn's going to jail. It is what it is. I don't think the defense had enough. There was too much there showing. She's the last one there. She knew what was happening. You hear the phone call to 911. It's over. She's going to be in jail for a long time. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comments in the chat. I mentioned in the chat that in 2024, she had a plea deal for 2nd-degree murder, and she would have been eligible for parole after 15 years. Now, looking a little bit different. Did she make the right choice? Not looking like it. Let me know what y'all think. Thank you again to all 13,000 of you that are in the building. Y'all are amazing. Appreciate the love that everyone was showed. Shout out to y'all for liking the video. Over 1,000 of you have liked the video, so we're only missing a couple hundred likes. Thank y'all for the love and support. Big shout out to those of you who went the extra mile and dropped super chats. Les Cleaver, Kelly Berg, Mr. Brown, Spring Flowers, and then of course my awesome amazing Amy. I also dropped some memberships in there for y'all too. Listen, if you guys, I'm gonna call out my fellow YouTubers. If y'all are on a YouTube channel that has memberships and you're joining, they have, the owner of that channel has the option to gift you all memberships once a month. So make sure y'all put the pressure on them and say, give some memberships here if they're not gifting the memberships, to make sure they do that. And y'all remind me as well, because I forget that I think we get 5 once a month or something that we can give. So shout out to everybody that got those memberships I dropped in there. Yeah, shout out to all 13,000. It's 13,000. All right, we're going to speak it into existence. Let me read a couple comments and then we'll get out of here. The jury did a great job. I agree. I think that was the only right decision. I live in Australia. How come people are going on about Karen Read all the time? I still think she is guilty. Huh? So many lives were ruined, and from the defense side, they were intimidated witnesses. That's just factually not true. Shout out to our folks and our friends down under. Shout out to Stephen G. I know he's going to be watching the replay later because it's late there in Australia. That's just factually not true. And I think you can still believe Karen Read is guilty, but the evidence, it doesn't show that. If you look at the evidence objectively, which we did here on this channel, not knowing or not seeing the Karen Read trial before, the evidence just shows that someone else was involved. Something else happened to John O'Keefe. And even the Commonwealth's own experts weren't able to prove or show that Karen Read was innocent and how John O'Keefe would have been killed by Karen Read. So the evidence, it speaks for itself. But again, it seems like there's people still on both sides of the fence when it comes to Karen Read. The jury found they're not guilty, but we moving on. Y'all have a great rest of your day. As always, you know what to do. Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any time we go live or drop a new video. like the video on your way out. And as always, keep growing, keep pushing, keep it classy. I'll see some of y'all tonight on the Song of the Night Live. Peace.